Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann, and I show women how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives. So today, I'm joined by Wendy Bjork. Hi, Wendy.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So for those of you that don't yet know Wendy, she is the founder of Four Cornerstones program. And we'll hear more about that a bit later on. But shall we start, Wendy, with you telling us a little bit about how life was as you were growing up?
Sure. I started noticing these weird symptoms and feelings happening when I was a teenager, probably 16 or 17. And it would just be triggered by a simple hot bath. So I would get out of the tub and my feet and legs would just feel like spaghetti. So it was just very strange. And I would mention it to my doctor. You go for your annual sports physical for school, and he didn't think anything of it and didn't encourage me to investigate further. And this just kept happening. And then all of a sudden it wasn't going away. And went through college and started my first big full-time job after college. And then I had a bad attack where it was like someone had their hand over my mouth. I just couldn't get my words out. And I didn't know if I was having a stroke or what was happening. But after that, I went to a neurologist. And I actually saw many neurologists before they diagnosed my multiple sclerosis.
How terrifying, Wendy.
It was, I worked in a busy insurance office, and I was talking to a customer who was angrier than most because no one calls their insurance agent when they're happy, right? And I wasn't getting a word in edgewise, and I was 22, so clearly he was just going to yell until he was done. And all of a sudden he was waiting for my response and I couldn't speak, so I just hung up on him because I didn't know what to do. And then I had to call him back and explain what happened, which I'm sure he didn't believe me. Just weird. But after that, I would just feel the stresses of the job, and things would happen. Like my vision was affected then the next time I had a big attack, where it was optic neuritis. I didn't know it, but I just couldn't see out of my one eye, and it was very fuzzy, but I just still drove, didn't tell anybody because I had to get to work. And that happened a few times. And it usually was I was coming down with something and then I just did too much. I wasn't listening to my body. I was just kind of ignoring the whole MS diagnosis and just living life how I wanted to. And my boss at that job was into personal development, and he was willing to send me to different seminars and conferences because he could see that I was not dealing with it. And he sent me to my big one that I went to was the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that really gave me the tools to deal with life. And, the other ones he sent me to, they were like Brian Tracy and Jack Canfield. And that really, really helped me deal with this whole illness, because if you don't have a positive attitude and you're always worried about what's going to happen, you're just always sort of like in a tailspin of worry and fear and panic. And
So, Wendy, when you were first diagnosed, I mean, how did you deal with that life-changing, those words that the specialist said to you? How did you actually deal with that? Because you're saying it wasn't until much later that someone suggested you go and start to transform your mindset. But at the time that happened, did life feel like it was over for you?
Yes, and I just kept thinking, why me? Why now? And my grandmother had horrible rheumatoid arthritis, and she was just bound to her chair in the living room. So all she did all day was look out the window. And that's all I could think was, I don't want to be like her. I'm 22. I can't, my life can't be over yet. I just it was just hard to wrap my head around it all and deal with all the, feelings that come with that diagnosis. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who feel that way. You hear those words and you're just shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. So how was it, the people around you, how did your family and your friends deal with that?
My family's very supportive and just tried, to help by taking me to appointments. And like I said, I saw probably 5 neurologists before I was diagnosed. So it was a lot of appointments to the specialist, and it was, an hour drive each way since we live in a small town, and they would help doing that. And I think my friends just kind of treated me like normal, and wanted me to just be the same old Wendy. And I tried to fit into that mold for a long time because it's hard to admit you have something wrong or that you need help.
Yeah, well, I can only imagine. And really, there might be some people watching, and I include myself in this, that don't really know a huge amount about MS. So can you tell us, what is it?
So what happens is your myelin that covers your nerves is damaged. So then when your brain is sending signals throughout your body, there isn't anything for it to, hit on. I don't know if that's the right word. That's not the medical term. But, that sheath is gone. So then there's missed signals. So when your brain tells you to put one foot in front of the other, sometimes your feet might hit each other and then you trip and fall down, or your words don't come out right. I have speech problems, which have gotten better, but I will take 2 words and mix them up. That's a hard thing to overcome, especially when you're trying to work and talk to customers, and it's almost like you've had some wine or you're impaired. And I've, even you just notice if you walk too much or do too much, your legs feel tired more than they used to. Or some people it affects their arms. And a lot of people, there's extreme fatigue. You get up, you get ready for the day, and 10 o'clock in the morning, you're ready to go back to bed because you're just done. You just need a break. So it affects everybody differently. And some people are affected more like in a wave. The symptoms come and go. And even if it seems like the symptoms are better, there's always residual damage that's invisible. So it's definitely an invisible illness because so much of it is hidden. The damage is hidden and nobody can see that. So it's hard to explain what's happening.
So you mentioned that it's to do with the myelin.
Mm-hmm.
How does it get damaged in the first place?
I think the T cells in your system damage it somehow. It was explained like your body's attacking itself, but that's not really what happens. It's just some way that your system just is malfunctioning, and it could be triggered by a virus like Epstein-Barr that's just dormant in your system, and then you have a stressful event in your life, or any number of things that something triggers it and sets it off.
Okay. So you mentioned a little bit about the insurance work that you had. I know that actually you were 10 years ago, you were working as an insurance agent, and then you stopped doing that. And then about 4 years ago, you set up your own business. So what made you do that?
I think once I was kind of forced to quit my job because I wasn't performing like I had been, and they were kind of tired of my special requests from my neurologist. I was working from home before it was the norm. My husband had set up a computer for me so I can work online and see my computer. So that just added to my stress because I was still doing all my work, and it wasn't like I was having a break at all for my system. And my neurologist actually said I was in one of my really low points of a relapse. And he said, either you change something or you're going to end up in a wheelchair. And that just really brought me to attention. And so I started diving in on what causes inflammation in our system, because I thought, why do I feel so horrible? And then everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people around you just don't really get it. And you try to be normal and you try to just be your same old self, but there's still something that's a problem. And I just started reading and researching, and I had coaches hired and web conferences, and this, took years to figure all out. But there's products that we use in our homes, that we use in ourselves, on our laundry, and they all cause inflammation and just aggravate our symptoms. And then there's the foods we eat, the dairy, the sugar, the gluten, or the wheat is just all causing inflammation in our body. And I think the wheat in our country, in the US, has been hybridized so many times that it's nothing like the wheat, 15, 20 years ago. So that just all the chemicals that we are taking in.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I'm really passionate about as well, because like you, I have a business where I show people how they can live a clean, healthy life. And that does include obviously what we put on our skin, what we consume. But at the time, Wendy, was that a bit of a shock? Had you any idea that those might exacerbate the problem?
No, I had no idea. And I would talk to my neurologist to ask him ideas. And it was, a few years before that even, the Walls protocol had come out, and I asked him, do you think this would help me? And he said, no, there's no scientific proof. So, okay. So you listen to the doctor and just keep going with what they tell you to do. And it just got to the point where I was on so many medications that was always the solution. There was never an inquiry to really what was happening. And I've had, a lot of problems since I was in my early 20s that haven't resolved themselves. So I think by diving in to figure out what was wrong and then starting to eliminate the foods and the household toxins and my favorite candles that I loved, burning, they were all affecting me.
I mean, obviously, it's really important to go and see doctors. They're great for certain things, but actually they only know what they know, don't they? And you and I obviously take a different approach because we look at the whole.
Yes.
That's really, really important. So starting a business, it's all unknown, isn't it? And you have to take, it takes perseverance, it takes guts to start a business in the first place. And obviously there are challenging times for all of us with any business. So have you experienced challenges in your business? And if you have, what's got you through?
So my first challenge was I was still hiding behind this mask of I'm fine until about a year and a half ago. I didn't really want to show what was happening to me and admit that I'd had all these problems all this time, because I thought, what are people going to think? Everybody's so worried about what everybody else thinks. And it took a lot of work on myself to step out and talk about all these issues and problems. And I think what really propelled me was all the online groups I'm in for MS moms and women. They're all talking about the same things, being tired, being exhausted, the bladder problems, and nobody's doing anything about it. And I'd actually reached out to the National MS Society and offered to write some blog pieces, and they took me up on it. And I thought, okay, I just need to step out and be the voice of everybody suffering in silence, because nobody is talking about it. And I just need to be real and share my message of hope.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And obviously this channel is called Real People, Real Transformational Stories. And I just think the world is absolutely crying out for real. So thank you for all that you do to bring that to the attention of other people who really need what it is that you offer. So what advice would you give to someone who might be watching, who either knows someone who has MS, or maybe someone watching actually has MS? What advice would you give them, Wendy?
Well, my first piece is once we can start traveling again, if you're up for it, start traveling. Because I had chances that I passed up on and when I was younger, and I should have just done it. And my second piece is always find 3-4 things a day that you're grateful for, whether you start out your day by doing it or end your day by doing it. We still have so much to be grateful for. And even when it's hard and you're in a rough time or rough spot, it still helps your system just be calm and having a positive attitude. And it's not easy, but it helps. It helps your mindset. It helps your whole cellular function, I believe.
Absolutely, I'm a total believer in that as well. So, of all the things that you've learned in terms of mindset, because clearly from some of the courses that you've been on, you've worked with some really great people, and I certainly know of those people, and also I've read their books. So, what was the thing that really shifted you in terms of mindset? Was there one thing that someone said, or?
It was probably all around judging people, because I think as just humans, we're always judging and, scanning and observing. And I think just living in the now and not judging yourself, not judging anyone else, just be yourself and love yourself.
Yeah, I guess it's the final bit, isn't it? Loving yourself is the bit that most people struggle with. So when you work with people on the Four Cornerstones, is that partly, connected to that beginning to love themselves? Is that key to shifting things, Wendy?
Yes, it's huge, because so many people are angry about their illness or their symptoms, and it's just so hard to show them that, having love for yourself is the first step. You have to accept who you are and what you've been handed. And that's the first step with mindset. And then I give them tools to help journal about their gratitude and journal about what's going on in their day, just keeping track of life. And I think when you write about it, it just makes it easier maybe to deal with it. And then, the next cornerstone is your body, what you're eating and drinking. And I know from going through it, it's not easy giving up all these good foods, the sugar. I mean, everybody loves ice cream and dairy. And so I just link arms with them and get them through it. Because once you've been, doing it for 90 or so days, it just gets easier and easier then to find substitutes or ways to work around it. And then as far as what you're putting on your body, like you had said, everything we put on our body is in our cells in just a matter of minutes. And then our system has to decide what to do with it. So just knowing what to use, trusting your source, and that goes for in your home too, which is the environment piece. That's your home, your office, your garden, all the things that you're bringing in and using, all affect our system.
And how is that shift in mindset that you've had, and that shift in the way that you behave day to day in terms of what you use, your kind of way of being, the things that you're grateful for, how has that impacted your family, Wendy?
I have 2 teenage sons and a husband, and they're all kind of the same. They're all kind of built the same, like the engineering thought process. So I think it's helped just calm everybody down. And especially now, when my husband was working from home last summer when his office was shut down, and then the kids being home, I think just everything starts, with the mom. If the mom is calmer, and dealing with life better, then I think it's just a ripple effect. And that's what I'm looking to just create, is this big ripple effect so that everybody is just feeling better and easier, to handle life and handle blips that come up in life, instead of just panicking and not knowing what to do. Just have the tools to say, I can do this, I can get through it.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And obviously I'm going to post all your links below this interview. So for those of you watching, please go and check Wendy out. So finally, Wendy, you know, when you're no longer on this planet, how would you like people to remember you?
I would just love them to remember me as the MS Warrior Queen, because I've been dealing with it for so long that I just want to help people get through it and just give them the tools to navigate it and to show them how to give themselves grace. Because if we're looking backwards, we can't look forwards. You know, we just always have to be moving forward.
Wise words. Wendy Bjork, thank you so very much for talking to me.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great being on with you today.